Hello and welcome again. I want to thank you for tuning into this episode about the seeking phase of your grief journey. Hopefully you have already watched the preceding video episodes in which we introduced the concept of a grief journey and then the first two phases of the grief journey that are about surviving and existing. If you've not yet viewed them, please hit your browser's back button and start with the introduction video and then follow with the episodes in the order they are presented in the series overview. If you've already done that and you've watched the videos, then sit tight as I explain this transitional stage of seeking. But first, I want to go back and briefly recap those first two phases, just to keep it in mind. In the surviving phase, you may be in a state of shock and dismay, such that you're not really experiencing reality as you previously experienced it. Surviving in this case means just hanging on the best you can. In time, most people will gradually transition from the surviving phase to an existing phase without really making an intentional effort to move forward. Typically, we all cycle back and forth between the phases during our grief, by the way. So no one's grief journey is a straight line, not even close, I'm sorry to say. And as Anne-Marie described in the preceding videos, while in the just existing phase, you will eventually sense that your life has become, stagnant. And you may realize that your identity, literally the way you picture yourself, has now become this grieving person rather than a living person who has the right and the inclination to live forward. Now, while you have moved from the surviving phase into the existing phase, sometimes without any particular plan or intention, you probably will not move into the seeking phase without some awareness and definitely some intention. In fact, in my experience, a lot of people get stuck in the existing phase of their journey. They sometimes become comfortable in their unsatisfying new normal, and many don't imagine that they will ever have a more satisfying and enjoyable life again. Can you relate to the feeling that your life is on hold and this mere existence is your fate? Well, if so, I want to share two important truths with you. First, time doesn't heal anything. I'm sorry, I know time heals all wounds and that, but it just doesn't. But it is important that you allow yourself the time to heal. That's a key component of your healing journey, and it takes time to heal. Second, with time, personal effort, and competent guidance, you can heal. Now, refuse to accept messages that you cannot heal through grief, please. Just understand that you have to actively seek healing. Ultimately, healing is an act of the will. You won't accidentally heal from your loss. And that is why we call the next phase the seeking phase. You must seek it out. When you actively seek for a way to heal from your loss, you're in the seeking phase. And this is true for everyone. You will slide back and forth between phases on your journey. Just remember that. But when you are actively seeking, you are entering that critical transitional time between just existing and moving towards healing. You are thinking something like this probably. I don't feel that good. I want to feel better, like I am actually living again. I need to find a way to get out of here. We have seen people plateaued in the existing phase for years, and get this, even decades. These folks are not satisfied with their lives. They know that they're stuck on a plateau, and they unfortunately choose to stay right there. Well, why would they do that? Well, there's actually some good reasons for doing it, but I hope to talk you out of them. Plateauing in your grief journey. Here are a few of the more common reasons for living a stagnant life. Some people believe there is nothing more after a devastating loss. They are unaware of the potential of healing other than the passage of time. Others believe that seeking a satisfying, significant, and enjoyable life could be dishonoring to the loved ones that they've lost. And that type of thinking usually comes from having feelings of guilt or remorse. Some people have tried to move forward, but once they experience the pain that they dredge up in the process, that sets them back. And then since that time, they have shied away from the idea of healing. Still others have actually found a sort of stability by primarily identifying as a grieving person. Now that may be a conscious, but sometimes I believe it's an unconscious choice. They just get into the rhythm of it. But again, over time, many people will then tire of the plateau they're on. They begin to think, there must be something better. My life is stalled out. It's unfulfilling. I don't want to be this way anymore. And there begins their seeking phase. Maybe you are seeking a healing path right now. You may be looking for someone or something to guide you from a life that is like on hold to a sense of really living again. A life that includes hope and a promise of something better and more. If you have that desire, then you are in a good place, because we designed our program to help you build a foundation of understanding grief and loss, first through education. We want you to be well grounded in what grief is and isn't before starting an intentional journey toward healing. We also hope to normalize your experience and to shine a light on the path that leads you back to really living again. And as you complete a full review of our episode library, you will gain a solid understanding of the grieving experience. And it's at that point we can provide you instruction and guidance toward a healing path, and we'll virtually walk alongside, providing other helpful information as you move forward. I must offer you this caution, however, if you're watching this now, and if your loss is fresh and raw, you're not likely ready to move forward with intentional healing. You will need to spend some time in the surviving mode, in the existing modes. Every griever needs the grounding that comes from just living in those phases. How do you know when the time is right to seek healing? My basic test is to ask this question. Are you mostly focused on escaping the pain of grieving? If so, you might not yet be ready to heal, because experiencing the pain in a conscious and authentic way is part of the healing process. So moving into healing from just having these tough feelings, that's not going to get you where you want to go, because you want to avoid all the pain. Once you're willing to step into it, it's going to make a difference. Healing from loss is not a foot race. It is not merely a process for hurting less. Rather, it is a journey of milestones that require learning along the way. It isn't about speed or getting over your grief. You must journey through your grief, and no two journeys are alike. Well, okay, that's plenty for you to think about in one day. So I'm going to wrap up this episode right now with a review of the key points I want you to take. A grief journey has several phases that every griever must experience if they are to effectively heal and eventually actively live again. The phases we describe, they're not stair steps. You will find yourself transitioning in and out of the phases. Moving to the seeking phase in pursuit of healing and living again, that's an intentional decision, and it requires a commitment and not just an escape plan. You need to want to move forward with life. And that means simply that you want to find a path towards healing and commit to staying on that path so you can ultimately move through your grief to intentional living again. Let me leave you with this stepping stone, an exercise. I encourage you to take some time today or tomorrow to consider where you think you are in the grief journey. Ask yourself these questions. First, are you still in a place of just getting through your days? And if so, you may not be ready to move on for something else. Do you have a sense of being stuck and being dissatisfied with life? That probably means that you are in the existing phase and you're considering what it would take to move forward. Do you believe that healing is a possibility? If not, you're going to have a hard time healing. Are you dissatisfied enough with your current life that facing the pain seems better than staying where you are? Then you are ready to find a way to move forward and heal. Have you spent time recently wondering if there's more ahead for you and what that might look like? Good. Think about it, because it can be true and you can get there, and we will try to help you. Now, the reflection. There are two ways to look at having the power to influence your life. How does that happen? Well, one is decisions are made as a result of your personal choices versus believing that decisions are made outside of your control. I suggest you adopt the former, which means taking responsibility to choose how to navigate what comes your way. Adopting the latter, meaning leaving it up to the world, what does that come to? That's just letting go of the rudder and leaving life to fate. Of course, you get to choose which philosophy to adopt. A good question to ponder, don't you think? I do. Well, with those thoughts in mind, I'm going to say goodbye for now. And I hope there was something valuable for you within this episode. We're going to move forward with the next two steps, or the next two phases of grieving. And I hope you'll join us for that. I look forward to seeing you. In the meantime, be well.